Hey everybody, Bonescoon here, and welcome back to the Daily. I don't think it really needs an introduction, let's just get into it. Today is the Q&A that I promised on the day before, and a lot of these questions are from Tyler. Actually, it's technically three people who have asked questions today that I will be answering, but a good chunk of them are this, but I'm going to breeze through these ones. So, what are some technological advances do you like the most in recent discovery? Come on, check your grammar, bro. So there's a really neat thing that I think it's NASA doing. They're developing a technology. It's about 1,000 cameras that can propel each other forward to 20% the speed of light. The goal to it is they're going to try and reach Proxima, I think that's the name of it, Proxima Centauri A, which is a nearby star that has a planet in the habitable zone, which is called Proxima Centauri B. Now, the habitable zone is something like Earth, where it's a planet that could possibly sustain life. And so they want to check out that planet and see if it's viable, because if it is, then it will be the planet that mankind tries to inhabit. Why? Because this is something that could happen in my lifetime, and I think that's a really neat thing. Space fascinates me. Simple as that. Now, where did you meet your girlfriend? I'll get back to that. Do I have a specific haircut I like? Well, uh, I've had the same haircut for years. I like it quite a bit. The picture that's on my YouTube channel is actually of me, so you can just look at that for reference. How do I feel about firearms? I'm not going to get on that. Um, that is a political thing, and I try to avoid things like that because all it does is spark debate. So, no thank you. What kind of restaurant do I work for? I work at Arby's. And do I like the food there? Well, yeah. I mean, it's gotten old after the 3.5 years that I've worked there. But I still enjoy it. There's enough variety that I haven't really gotten too tired of it. Um, this leads me back to the question: where did you meet your girlfriend? I actually met her at Arby's. She worked with me for about 2.5 years. She started working there a couple years after I did. She had a boyfriend at the time that she started working there. And then I got a girlfriend. Her and her boyfriend broke up. I still had a girlfriend. Uh, that girlfriend and I broke up. And by that time, Liz is her name, was my boss. She got promoted, so we couldn't date. I didn't know that she had feelings for me, but I told her that I had feelings for her anyway after a while of being single. I don't know. Um, I figured that she would turn me down, and she did. And then she found a different job doing something that she's more passionate about, which is really awesome. Really proud of her. Shortly after that, we started dating. So I've known her for about 3 or so years now, I'd say. So yeah, we've been dating for almost a month. Okay. What kind of car do you own? I own a 2013 Chevy Cruze, which is a fancy car for someone at my pay grade. The reason I have it is because I have a aunt that is very picky about her cars, and she decided that she wanted to get a newer model of the Chevy Cruze. So she was going to trade that car into the dealership, and she had like a big dent on one of the sides of it, so they weren't going to offer her a very good price. So I offered to go ahead and buy it myself, and I did, and I like it. Now, are you a dog person too, or just cat? I actually am not a cat person. I am pretty strictly. I guess I've softened up to cats a little bit over the last couple years, but I'm pretty strictly a dog person. What that means is Aria, which is one of my cats, and is a rescue. She was abandoned at an apartment complex that I was moving out of, so I decided to take her in. She was pretty cute, pretty friendly, and she wasn't very clawy. I had bad experiences growing up with cats' claws and everything. It took a lot to shake that, but Olive is actually her kitten. She had a one kitten litter, so that's how I ended up with two cats and no dogs, unfortunately. But hey, I still love them. And then finally, do you like fountains? Yes, I guess. Anyway, moving on to the next questions. We've got this guy right here, Kade Guthrie? Guthrie. Kade Guthrie. I don't know. Hey, buddy. You mentioned a history degree in the slow works. What area of history interests you most? I restore and fly World War II airplanes and love talking to veterans at air shows. That's really cool. Definitely an awesome thing to do. So that's my area of history. What's yours? Well, I wanted to make my own video on this, but I don't really know if people would want me to just drone on about history for a very long time. I mean, that is what I'm becoming a history teacher for, is that people are forced to listen to me talk about stuff like this. But I like all history, and I'm talking, sheesh, like in anything that is pretty sound historical is something that I am a pretty big fan of. But I've learned most about Civil War and World War II. Now, the Civil War is very important because of my family lineage. I actually had a great grandfather who fought in the Union Army. My family's been around since, so I think some of my family came in through Ellis Island, but I think that most of my family came here long before that. But my great grandfather was injured in the Civil War, and for those of you out there that know a little bit about history, you know that Abraham Lincoln liked to go around and meet injured soldiers, and my great grandfather actually shook hands with Abraham Lincoln, and a picture was taken of him doing so, and it's somewhere in the Gettysburg Museum, but I cannot find it. In addition to that, around that time, I don't know. It wasn't exactly around that time. I think it was a little bit after that. My great grandfather came back and purchased a good deal of land from the government. So our family owns an original land deed signed by the president of the time, and I don't remember which one it is. And so I think that that's just pretty cool. Aside from that, World War II, love it. I actually pulled out a little bit for it because, a lot of people, especially, I don't know how they do in other countries, but in America, you spend like a full year learning about World War II in high school, and so you learn a lot of the, basic stuff, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all because it's very important things, but you don't learn things about Mr. Mad Jack Churchill, and I just want to read you a little bit about him. So, this guy was a lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant Colonel John Malcolm Thorpe Fleming Churchill, DSO and BAR, MC and BAR, was born 16th of September 1906 and died in 8th March of 1996, was a British Army officer who fought throughout the Second World War armed with a longbow, bagpipes, and a basket-hilted Scottish broadsword. Nicknamed Fighting Jack Churchill and Mad Jack, he was known for the motto, "Any officer who goes into action without his sword is improperly dressed." This man right here, I guarantee you, a lot of your high school history textbooks and stuff don't have a single word about him in it. But this guy was something else. There's actually a picture, because there are cameras all throughout these wars, which is insane to me. But there is a picture of him storming a beach at the head of his unit. I don't know proper British terminology, but ahead of his group at the front, wielding a sword, while everybody behind him are carrying ladders and guns and, all that such and such. But he led campaigns and did quite a bit. He actually even ended up in a concentration camp and ended up being released from it. And upon that, he walked over 90 miles, like just straight up walked over 90 miles until he ran into an American regiment, went home, got himself cleaned up, and then went back out to the war. This guy's crazy. I'm going to read a little bit about one of the things that he did. I think it's right here. So, this is upon Churchill entering into World War II. Churchill resumed his commission after Germany invaded Poland in September 1939. As part of the British Expeditionary Force to France, in May 1940, Churchill and his unit, the Manchester Regiment, ambushed a German patrol near Lepenet, near Reichsburg in the Pas-de-Calais. France. Churchill gave the signal to attack by cutting down the enemy Feldwebel, staff sergeant, with a barbed arrow, becoming the only British soldier known to have felled an enemy with a longbow in the war. According to his son, Malcolm, who was in it, I think, as well, he and his section were in a tower, and as the Germans approached, he said, "I will shoot that first German with an arrow," and that's exactly what he did. And that's what he did. He did that quite a bit. He, at one point, took a place with 42 prisoners, marched them out of there, and since he had lost his sword in a melee skirmish with a German soldier, he walked back by himself to go and pick it up. He's just an obscure man. In addition to that, I think that this is completely unrelated. I think that the War of 1812 is pretty neat as well. But the most interesting thing I think about it is the fact that America accomplished essentially nothing in the war. They didn't really gain anything. If any, here, let me just read this. So on December 24th, 1814, commissioners signed the Treaty of Ghent, which is what ended the War of 1812, which would be ratified the following February. On January 8th, 1815, unaware that peace had been concluded, remember, we didn't have, phones and everything back then. It took time for news to travel. British forces mounted a major attack on New Orleans, only to meet with defeat at the hands of future U.S. President Andrew Jackson's army. News of the battle boosted sagging U.S. morale and left Americans with the taste of victory, despite the fact that the country had achieved none of its pre-war objectives. Yeah, the War of 1812 was an interesting one, too. It's not really too well known. It's around that time that Napoleon's army was defeated. And is also one of the times that the White House was burned down, because shortly after Napoleon's defeat, Great Britain focused almost all of their attention on America, and they marched massive forces down to Washington, D.C., captured it, and burnt it, the White House and the Capitol building, both to the ground. along with a few other prominent buildings, I believe. But yeah, it was not a very good war for America. They weren't just fighting Great Britain. A lot of the Native American tribes still running around also allied with Great Britain in the hopes that Britain would honor their word and help them keep their lands intact. And yeah, it was something. I enjoy quite a bit of history, and I could drone on and on about these things. But I also forgot to show Crew's message because Crew also asked essentially the same question. What is your favorite era in history and why? I was a history teacher for a few years and really liked 1080 to 1500 AD, especially medieval warfare. I'm going to have to look a little more into that specific time period because I do like medieval warfare, but my knowledge on it isn't too great. All I know is I really wish that America had legitimate castles. I know that America was colonized long after those days were done, but I gotta tell you, a good looking castle is just gorgeous. I love them. And I'm really jealous. I haven't gotten to actually go and check out a castle in other countries and such, but yeah, that's a story for a different day. Anyway, that is the Q&A for today, and that's the daily. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's a very long one, so if you stuck around for this whole thing, thank you very much. And yeah, until the next one, bye.